Sunday, July 25th. Today on the Daily Review, we discuss a new HBO documentary by Garrett called Music Box, Woodstock 99, Peace, Love, and Rage. Join me, your host, Joe LaRocca, on the best damn show on the internet. Ain't that the case? Maybe. We'll find out. Anyway, this is about Woodstock 99. I don't know how much general audiences know about Woodstock 99, but it was a bit nutty. It went bad. So the original Woodstock was in 1969, and it had over 500,000 people show up without really much security or planning, and there weren't riots, and it wasn't that chaotic. Now, it wasn't the idealistic dream that the boomer generation remembers it as, but it certainly was one of the biggest gatherings in modern history of that amount of people where it was peaceful, and things went okay. And there's a million stories about it. I know that the National Guard had to bring in food at some point, and, things kind of went bad, and they didn't really make any money or anything. But it was a watershed moment that endured into the 70s and 80s. So, in 1994, they were like, let's do it again. And they lost money, and it rained, but it worked. And it was kind of like a last hurrah for a lot of the boomers, they say. And it was a good lineup. It was like Santana and Bob Dylan and Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I don't know if Young played with them or separately or was not there at all. Kind of a mix, but the same kind of vibe. And it worked. And it wasn't the biggest thing ever, but they were like, all right, cool. We should do this like every 5 years. So then in 99... they go about it. And here's what's changed. Now, it's still Michael Lang, the guy who ran the first, it's like, it's still all the same people. So it hasn't been corporatized in that sense. Well, sort of. Yes, it has. So one of the biggest problems in 99 is the energy of music had changed. So all the bands they had were very angsty. It was all Korn and Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock and DMX, and there were 3 female acts. It was a 3-day festival, and they put 1 female act on each day. It was Jewel, Sheryl Crow, and Alanis Morissette. Alanis Morissette played, I think, before like Rage Against the Machine and Megadeth or something, and Metallica was there. So it's just like a much heavier show in terms of artists. That their vibe wasn't particularly chill. But the question is why? And this documentary does a very good job of not just going kind of over the surface of just here's the events that happened. No, it's an hour and 50 minutes, and it really goes into like, now, wait a second. What changed the musical culture? What was going on at this time period? What are all the little sociological things that allowed such a different event to happen, 30 years after this kind of amazing event had the country changed that much? And in a lot of ways, the thing everybody remembers is like, bottles of water were $4. And it's like, that's not good. And it was muddy and messy and stuff, but you got to expect stuff to be pretty expensive. $4 for water is ridiculous, but I mean nowadays that's probably what it would be. But in '99, that is very ridiculous because it's kind of an essential doodad. And they make a good point of that '99 was also the first year of Coachella, which happened after this, and they kind of learned from all the mistakes to the point where you showed up and they handed you a bottle of water. They're like, here, don't riot, please. So some of those reasons is that music in '99 was very strange. MTV was kind of on this weird changing thing. It was really used to be avant-garde, kind of in counterculture and right on the edge of what was hip. And sometime in the late 90s, it kind of started switching to the boy bands and the Disney, Britney stuff. So that was happening at the same time as Korn and Fred Durst and all these kind of much heavier, angsty bands are coming as a reaction to all the like sugary pop, whatever. But they converged on TRL. And it was weird because there was like, oops, I did it again, like that kind of stuff. And then there's like angry rap rock metal that isn't really about melody, And it's just like, I want to fuck things up tonight. What the hell? And really, it makes you realize, dang, the philosophy of the movie Fight Club was so spot on. That speech Tyler Durden gives, is so emblematic of how an entire generation of middle and upper class white dudes feel, of like we all thought we were going to be rock gods and movie stars, and we find out now we're not, and we're mad, so there's anger about the fact that there is nothing to be angry about, which is such a fascinating concept. Whereas in '69, what brought everybody together was all of the violence and political issues that were happening around the world, and they all bonded over that. They're like, well, at least all of us here aren't engaging in war, or we're not lying to people, we're not being all, we're not assassinating anybody. Whereas whatever, I guess in '99 it was just like there had been like 2 decades of like pretty good, I guess after '86, but like they're good economy, everything's going well. We had a war in a Persian Gulf War, and we just kind of went over there and we're like, boom, boom, Abrams tanks, and just took over. And it wasn't like, it reassured America of our ability to fuck things up. Excuse me. And then young white male culture was very profitable for companies. So things like, because you're just tapping into kids' sex drives, so Girls Gone Wild and Maximum and FHM and MTV Spring Break, Beach House, and all that stuff is just like the exploitation of women was part of the business plan, because you're tapping into the fact that a 20-year-old basically thinks about sex 24/7. So fascinating stuff, really a great, kind of some of the stuff I like most about documentaries is when the subject matter doesn't even matter as much as what it says about society. It's like why I like 30 for 30 so much. I don't really care so much about sports, but it is a good insight to something that people are super interested in, and kind of these crazy stories that happen. There's tons of other things like that. I'm just looking at this, like, also history is what we choose to remember. So Woodstock is kind of a choose to remember event. And like, also Napster. So the industry was changing based on that. There was anger about that for whatever reason. The musical performances some of them are very powerful because they're performed with a great deal of energy. But really, the music is, I don't think it'll stand the test of time the way that some of that movie from the 60s and 70s and even 80s and even early 90s has. I do think it was kind of a downturn because it's got a lot of that grunge stuff, but there's no melody. There's no Beatles in any of this music. In Korn, Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock. Odie, relax. Give me a second, buddy. Odie's downstairs barking. She's got to go out. So I'll kind of wrap this up. Some of the saddest parts that made me so angry was like Rosie Perez comes out to like, hype somebody up, and everybody just starts chanting, "Show us your tits." It's like, ugh. Odie, hey! Sorry. So then there's a lot of passing of the buck from the promoters to the people at MTV to the musicians. Everybody's like, well, it was this person's fault, and the rioters and stuff, which is very interesting. They get like a rioter who now is like, I can't believe I got involved in that. I was being so stupid, but it was just like crowd mentality, man. You can't even understand how you'll act. if you've been kind of outside and tired and dirty and drunk and high for 3 days, and then people hand out candles for this vigil for the people of Columbine, another event, and Y2K fears, other things that kind of add to the angsty what's going to happen. And people took those candles and started like burning the place down. And it was nuts. One of my favorite stories is this girl. She wasn't having a really great time. She thought it was going to be like her Woodstock and kind of thought it was going to be a peaceful festival. She woke up on the Sunday morning and she heard, "Tear down the wall, tear down the wall." And she got all excited. She goes, "Oh my God, Pink Floyd is here. I knew something like this was going to happen. They're going to have a special guest fly in, and it's going to be this like amazing thing because we all paid for this, and this is going to be like the big finale." And then she got out of her tent, and it was just people literally tearing down the wall, which was called the Peace Wall, that they put up around the whole venue. I was like, that's a great story. That's perfect. That and the image of Kid Rock coming out in like a pimp outfit, and then just like being all like all the bravado, and then his music is just terrible, and he's going around, he's playing every instrument but like very poorly. It's like, it's not like Prince playing every instrument. He's just going over the drums and going going over to like the turntables and going zick 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 zick, and it's like, yeah, dude, okay, cool. Yeah, Fred Durst did kind of go too far, in my opinion, because between every song, they were like, "Hey, can you calm the crowd down a little bit?" And he would just be like, "Break stuff. Don't you want to break stuff? Don't you want to punch someone in the fucking face?" You know, so it's like, come on, dude, chill out. It's kind of amazing that more people didn't die, and that, you know, there were hundreds and hundreds of sexual assaults. Only 4 were reported, but all of it is gross. It's kind of like Woodstock 69 in a lot of ways shows some of the best things that human beings can accomplish if they work together and they act peacefully and they are respectful. And then this kind of shows the opposite of it, and it shows the burgeoning anger of the white male frat boy culture that was being massaged by the industry, all media industries at the time. I also think a big problem was that it was so fucking hot. So hot. Like, people lose their minds when it gets really hot, obviously. So, I do highly recommend it. They could easily broken this up into 3 little documentaries, you know, doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever, in terms of the days. But they kept it all together, which I like, because there would be no need to break it up. This is one big story, and it's very coherently put together. After the first 5 minutes, I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this, and then it gets going, and I went, oh yeah, they're really, it's really interesting to kind of, you know who comes off looking really good is The Offspring, who I've always kind of liked them personally. They've seemed like cool guys. That main guy there, and Noodles, and he came out on stage at the time and was like, "Hey, stop molesting women. Just so you know, that is what you're doing. This isn't fun and games. You are grabbing women against their will, and they're just trying to have fun, and you're outnumbering them. So that's not very cool." So, and then he plays that song that's like about how shitty dudes are. So they were fairly self-aware. Okay. I guess I'll do a little bit of music. Then we can wrap it up. What I'm really interested in, anybody on this channel, were you at Woodstock 99? And if you were, DM me or message me or put a comment in here, and we'll have you come on and talk about it. Or just vocally talk about it. Moby has a lot of tattoos, huh? He's pretty guilty about eating animals, I think. I did it all for the nookie. The nookie, the nookie. So you can take that cookie and shove it up your ass. Or, in the end, the love you make is equal to the love you take. No, wait. That's not right. Anyway, goodbye.